Tia Christine Sharp was born on the 30th of June 2000 in Croydon, England. She was born to her parents Natalie and Stephen, and after a short time her parents split. Natalie and her mother, so Tia's grandmother, were so very close, and they did everything together from shopping to drinking to anything with kids. But they were always together doing something. So Tia's grand, Christine, and her mother literally brought Tia up. They lived in separate houses, but Tia would flip between her grandmother and her mother's house, spending time with her grandmother and her mother. She very rarely ever saw her parental father. Tia was described as a happy girl. She was always laughing and singing and dancing, telling jokes. She was apparently the class clown and couldn't sit still. At school, Tia had a lot of friends. She was very confident in nature, and her teachers said she was just a joy to be around. She was also outgoing, she was smart, and she got very good grades in class. She was somebody who had very strong opinions about things, and she would air her feelings and wasn't afraid of letting people know that she was there. But according to her school reports, her attendance was very poor in junior school. But this was never robustly addressed, and there was an unsatisfactory lack of challenge in the school's approach. Tia's mother avoided all attempts to explore and tackle the issue, and it's unknown why she had so many poor attendances, whether it be due to not being bothered to take her to school, or whether she was just constantly sick. It's really not known. And no professional discussed the possible reasons for this poor attendance directly with her mother. And there was apparently substantial evidence that Tia lived in a situation where the use of illegal substances was an everyday occurrence within the house. But Tia grew up around this. It was nothing new to her. But in 2008, social services raised concerns over her mother Natalie and her partner's use of an illegal substance. By now, Tia had two younger brothers to look out for and play with. A social services report described the family as dysfunctional, and it was later judged that there was inappropriate tolerance of the use of smoking the green stuff and the environment where she lived. Police records show that Tia was present during one of the searches of the house in which substances were found. This was in 2004 and in April 2008. There was, however, no evidence of neglect or abuse towards Tia. In 2003, Natalie had met a man by the name of Stuart Hazel. Now, Stuart was born in May 1975. His mother had been an SEX worker and had often kicked Stuart out of the house because she needed to provide these services to other men. His father was in and out of prison for the entirety of Stuart's younger life. But Stuart really didn't have anyone he could look up to or be loved by. His mother was not so nice to him, and she often told him, "You're the reason why I have to go out to work, in order to provide for you." And when his mother did spend time with her son, she would just start yelling at him. It was just overall a really bad situation for Stuart. And when he was young, his mother even sent him to live in foster care. And at 13, Stuart had started to try substances and alcohol. And at 14, Stuart was arrested for dealing in coke, then for brandishing a large sharp object. And as he grew up, at 16 years of age, Stuart decided to run away. He initially stayed at a homeless shelter, where he later told of how he'd been touched by an older man. And it's just sad that Stuart really didn't have anyone in his life to look up to, no father figure, and his mother really didn't care what he was doing or whether he was there or not. His psychiatric history is one of depression, alcoholism, self-harm, and even trying to take his own life. And in 2003, he was sent to prison for 34 months for supplying a Class A substance. Stuart really had no idea what direction to go in, so he ended up with a life of crime, following his father's footsteps and gathering a large rap sheet of various crimes. At 28 years of age is when he first crossed paths with Tia's mother, Natalie Sharp. But the relationship would only last a couple of weeks. They seemed to always be arguing and falling out. They'd only just got together and everything was going wrong. But they saw life differently and it just caused so many problems. A couple of years later, he would start up a relationship with Natalie's mother, Christine. Remember, Natalie's mother, the woman that Natalie does everything with? Now, Christine was a barmaid in a pub in Rains Park, southwest London. And in 2007, they become a couple. There was a 10-year age gap between her and Stuart, but it seemed to work, and Natalie didn't seem to be bothered that it was her ex dating her mother. In 2007, 4 years into the relationship, Stuart moved into Christine's new Adlington home in South London. And at the time, Tia was 7 years of age. Tia loved going to visit her gran as usual. She loved Stuart too, and she often called him Grandad. He was the first and only male figure really in her life at this point. In a way, she looked up to him like a father figure or a grandfather figure, but he was in and out of prison constantly, so still in and out of her life. And due to this, he struggled to get employment because he had a criminal record. And even when he did get a job, he would lose it again when he was sent back to prison. He just could not hold down a job. And he was in a life of substances and welfare dependency. Stuart also continued to have issues with these substances and alcohol, but after deciding to change his life, Stuart got a job as a window cleaner and decided to settle down. But did he? Stuart Hazel is by now an integral part of the family. He's especially close to Tia and is said to be good with kids. He was also good with the house, and Tia idolised her gran and her grandfather, Stuart, and looked forward to staying the night even when Christine was away. Tia texted her grandmother one night and Stuart asking if she could go and stay the night with them. It was a normal thing for Tia to do. She often visited. Her mother now had 2 other children, 2 younger boys, so they could not all go, but Tia often went to stay on her own with the family. Now, Stuart Hazel texted Natalie back, Tia's mother, to say he didn't mind if Tia comes, but added that Christine would not be there, so Tia's grandmother would not be there. Don't know where she was going, but she wasn't going to be there. So Natalie asked Tia if she still wanted to go. You know, it's just going to be Stuart. It's just going to be you and Stuart. Grandma's not going to be there. Yes, she said. So, on August the 2nd, 2012, when Tia was 12 years of age, she was dropped off by her mum Natalie, and she went to stay over Thursday night at her grandmother's home and to come home Friday morning. She was going to get the train home and get back at approximately 7 p.m. So on Friday, the 3rd of August 2012, Tia's grandmother Christine, she returns home from work. Her boyfriend Stuart Hazel is sprawled out on the sofa watching TV, and he tells her that Tia's gone to Croydon to buy some flip-flops. But when Tia does not return home at 6 p.m. that night, Christine calls Tia's mother, her daughter. At this point, Natalie's not seen her daughter. The grandmother has not seen the daughter. She's not returned from buying flip-flops. The mother decided that Tia must have stayed the night at grandma's again. She called Tia but no answer, so she called the grandmother, her mother, but said that Tia had left on Friday morning. Where is she? She went on the train. On the 3rd of August 2012, as London was gripped by the Olympics, Tia Sharp, the 12-year-old schoolgirl, had been reported missing from her grandparents' home in New Adlington, South London, and a call had been made by her mother, Natalie, to alert police to Tia's disappearance. Family were out making t-shirts. Everybody was wearing these t-shirts saying "Missing Tia Sharp," and they were putting flyers up everywhere that they could stick them. The news report was out there. They wanted to know what was going on, and they were reporting on the fact that Tia was missing. And on Monday, the 6th of August, her mother spoke out. "Please, Tia, come home." Police wanted to interview the last 2 people that saw Tia alive. Stuart Hazel told police that Tia Sharp had left the house at 3 o'clock on the 3rd of August to travel to Croydon, 5 miles away, to buy shoes in the Whitgift Centre. 55 sightings were reported by members of the public, but none were substantiated. 80 police officers were assigned to the search, and 800 hours of CCTV footage were collected. And on the 9th of August, Stuart Hazel gave an interview to Mark Williams Thomas. He's a reporter for the ITV News. He was denying that he'd done anything to Tia and prayed for her safe return. Police came to Grandma's house. They searched it thoroughly, looking for Tia. They searched in cupboards, under beds, and anywhere where she could have hidden. It's one of the first places that police generally look, but they did not find Tia Sharp. They constantly spoke to Tia's grandfather, one of the last people to see her before she'd gone missing, but he denied knowledge of knowing where she was and said that he'd seen her going into town. On the 10th of August, a body was discovered. Police suspected Stuart knew more than he was letting on, but had no idea the schoolgirl was under their noses the entire time. In fact, it took officers 4 visits to the home where Tia had last been seen before they found Tia's body on the 3rd attempt. A dog was taken inside to sniff areas that had not been searched before and never made it to the attic as the entrance had been blocked. Her body was finally found on the 10th of August, a full 7 days after Tia had been reported missing. The schoolgirl was wearing pink and white pyjama bottoms and a Little Miss Giggles top. A black bedsheet in a black bag in the loft of her grandmother's home is where Tia was found. Police launched a search for Stuart Hazel and arrested him on suspicion of murder that evening at 8:25 p.m. at Cannon Hill Common in Morden, after a tip-off from a member of the public to say that they'd seen him. The officer in charge of the investigation apologised to Tia Sharp's mother, Natalie, for the delay in finding their daughter's body. He blamed human error and said that a review would be undertaken to ensure such a failing is not repeated. And shortly after Stuart Hazel's arrest, memory cards were recovered from Christine Bicknell's residence. One was particularly well hidden in a door frame on the ground floor of the property. Police were able to recover images and videos, some of which had been deleted, and some of the files portrayed Tia Sharp in distressing positions, believed to have been taken after her death, whereas others were terrible photos of when Tia was still alive. Tia had been horrifically murdered by her grand's lover, Stuart Hazel, who had hid her body in the loft. He had done the most terrible things to her, then took X-rated photos of her body after death for his own twisted pleasure. Stuart had developed an interest in the schoolgirl, filming her as she rubbed cream onto her legs in her underwear. He had also been searching for vile content online for weeks leading up to Tia's death, including for young girls who wore glasses, which she did. What the family didn't know was Stuart Hazel had a history of viewing similar material online, meaning he was able to gain access to the youngster on nights spent babysitting her alone. For example, videos of her applying this moisturiser to her legs or when she was asleep in her bedroom. The search terms he used included schoolgirl RAPE and incest SEX. Fantasies are really important in understanding what leads to murder. To Tia's grandfather, one of the last people to see her before she'd gone missing, but he denied knowledge of knowing where she was and said that he'd seen her going into town. That was the last time he'd seen her. But this turned out to be false, as police found CCTV of them together in town after he told them that she'd gone to buy shoes on her own. This was not correct. Stuart Hazel was seen in CCTV images on a bus and in various stores with Tia the day that she was last seen alive. A CCTV captures the last images of Tia alive. Stuart Hazel and Tia are seen shopping. That night, Christine phones Stuart Hazel. He says that they're playing computer games. Christine hears Tia laughing in the background, but sometime later, stoned and drunk, Stuart Hazel makes these advances to Tia. Tia apparently said that she'll tell her mum. Rather than feel shame, he's instead filled with sadistic sex lust. It is not known at what point that he actually killed Tia, or even how he killed her. It is suspected that he suffocated her. What is certain is that he used a vibrator on her. Tia's blood was later found on the end of it. As Stuart Hazel stripped her naked, he arranges her body after death into a particular position and is alleged to use his mobile phone camera to take photos of her from behind. After murdering a young girl that he had helped bring up as his own granddaughter, and humiliates the body, using it for his own pleasure with absolutely no moral care, no emotional feeling towards somebody that from 2 years of age he had held as his own. That demonstrates how dark, detached and sinister his personality was. This is a man who is capable of anything. He placed pieces of her body into black sacks from the bathtub. Tia's body was taped up, almost cocooned, in the black bedsheet and black plastic. Tia's dismembered remains were placed between the rafters of the loft and the roof. He carefully wrapped Tia's clothes and her broken glasses in more black bags and places them next to her, and he covers it all in general debris. Christmas trees, general stuff that we all keep in our loft. In the early morning hours of the 12th of August, he was charged with the murder of Tia Sharp, and he appeared before Camberwell Green Magistrates Court on the 13th of August via video link. No plea was entered, and the case was committed to the Old Bailey for trial, with the first appearance on the 15th of August via video link, with a preliminary hearing set for the 19th of November and a provisional trial date for the 21st of January 2013. He was remanded in custody to the Belmarsh prison, where he was kept in isolation for his own safety. A post-mortem on the body began on the 10th of August and paused later that day, and by the 16th of August the post-mortem had still not been completed, but at an inquest in the death which was open that day, it was confirmed that it was the body of Tia Sharp. The coroner said that he may have made sexual advances towards Tia and murdered her when she rebuffed him and threatened to tell her mother. Tia Sharp was cremated on the 14th of September after a private family funeral. CCTV showed the pair as they went to the Co-op supermarket together, wandering through the aisle where Stuart appeared to be a doting step-grandad, but behind his sweet nature lured a true monster. Just hours after the pair were seen stepping off a bus together, Stuart had smothered Tia to death. What was even more disgusting and twisted was that those appealing for information, appearing on the TV in front of the cameras, was a wide-eyed Stuart Hazel. It's not about me. It's all about Tia, and we've got to get her home. I just don't know what more I can do. Tia, come home, babe, he said. It was announced on the 26th of November 2012 that Stuart Hazel would face trial in May in 2013. And on the 13th of May, Stuart Hazel changed his plea to guilty and was sentenced to life imprisonment on the 14th of May with a minimum term sentence of 38 years, meaning he would be 75 years of age before he is eligible for parole. In June 2013, the home of Christine, so Tia's grandmother, and Stuart Hazel, the home where she was apparently murdered, was demolished, and in 2014 work began on new houses being built on the site. In November 2013, partly in response to the murders of Tia and April Jones, the search engines Google and Bing modified their searches to block results from searches amid producing child images. Natalie Sharp, her mother, was struggling after Tia had been murdered. She was really struggling. And at 34 years of age, she attacked a victim who was Kosovan in Wallington on the 18th of April. She did admit to assault and was found guilty of racially aggravated common assault. Her mother was charged with 12 months community service with unpaid work. The judge said that sadly her daughter's death had almost certainly had an effect on her. Tia's grandmother, Christine of Todlington Square, was found guilty of racially aggravated harassment. The judge said that although the grandmother did not assault the victim, she behaved in a disgraceful way. But during the assault, her mother had punched the victim 3 times in the head, kicked her legs, and grabbed her by the hair. Tia's mother also swore at the victim and said, "Go back to your own country." The argument began after the victim parked in a mother and baby space despite not having any children with her. And after deliberating for less than 3 hours, the jury at Croydon County Court found both women guilty. So it just shows a couple of things have come out of this. Unfortunately, Tia will never get to live the life, have children of her own, get a great job, and have a full life, as some of us will. The search engines Google and Bing have changed their search engines so that certain images of children cannot be found. Her mother and grandmother still doing a lot together, as you can see by this last situation, are struggling. They're struggling with the things they were probably struggling with before Tia went missing, but then add on top of that their daughter and granddaughter has gone. So what do you think about this story of Tia Sharp? Have you heard it before? What do you make of it? What do you think about the 38-year sentence that Stuart Hazel received? Do you think he deserved more? Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below, guys. Take care, and I'll be back with you again soon. Bye for now.